If this video shatters the image that you had of John Cena, I'm very, very sorry. I am Ripper the Clown, the unpredictable cartoon character come alive, and I'm here with a response video of sorts, because I've done a couple anti-John Cena videos. I did a video about how he probably won the 2016 Royal Rumble even though he was injured. I did a video about how in 1997 if Cena was with the WWF and Brian Pillman, boom, shot him with his gun, he probably would have been on Raw the next night winning matches. And I also did a little skit about how this Easter Island head was the brand new John Cena action figure. It looks just like John Cena, doesn't it? With that protruding brow and that jutted chin. Yeah. I mean, seriously, like this looks just like John Cena. I mean, this would be the perfect John Cena action figure. But all joking aside, a couple people have sent me emails recently, and they're like, "Rip, man, why do you hate John Cena so much?" And I'm going to tell you why right now. Now, I was never a big fan of John Cena's work whatsoever. And, there are a couple scenarios here that I just want to throw by you first. Sometimes, you're a really big fan of somebody. You like their movies or their wrestling or their music or whatever the case may be. And you meet them, and they're such a horrible, condescending, patronizing asshole that all of a sudden everything that you liked about them is just gone. And you never watch their movies or listen to their music again. I've had that happen. Now, there's also the scenario where you meet somebody and you're not really a big fan. You can take or leave their work, their music, their movies, whatever. And you meet them. And they're such a humble, gracious human being that you can't help but become a big fan of their work. Now, that's happened to me too. Now, the John Cena situation was a little bit different because I never liked John Cena to begin with. I thought he sucked in the ring. He has absolutely ruined the sport of wrestling. So, when I met John Cena in 2004, none of those two scenarios really worked because I didn't like him anyway, and he was such a complete asshole that it made me hate him even worse. So here's the situation. At the time I had a couple friends working for the WWE, and they had done kind of the area circuit, and I'd gone to like 3 or 4 shows in a row, and the last show was Terre Haute, Indiana. So I was at this show, and I arrived early, and I went backstage, and I was sitting at the production booth, and just minding my own business. The guys are coming out, training in the ring. And all the guys were eyeing me, and I couldn't really figure out why. Now I was dressed really nice. I'd actually just come from a funeral, and I was in a suit and tie, and not looking, like Ripper right now. This was way before Ripper was born, by the way. But so I'm sitting there in my suit, and nobody really acknowledges me. The only guy who acknowledged me was Rico. He came over, shook my hand, introduced himself. Was really a cool guy. But everyone else was just giving me the eye, looking me up and down. All of a sudden, I feel some movement to my left, and I look over, and John Cena is coming up. And he comes up, and he grabs this chair, the steel chair, and he plonks it right down next to me. He sits right down next to me. I just thought that was really, really weird. He didn't say a word, didn't say anything, just sat right down, and we're like shoulder to shoulder. Like he is, blatantly intruding on my personal space. And it was just very strange and kind of bizarre. And again, I wasn't a big fan of the guy. And he just had this really, this aloof, kind of angry look about him. And so I didn't say anything to him. And so the whole time he's just sitting there like either looking down or looking at me. And it was just, again, I can't describe. Just talking about it, I just remember how bizarre it was. So we're sitting there for a while. I'm just trying to mind my own business, I'm just like looking around watching the guys train in the ring. And guys come by and they say hi to Cena, and he says hi to him, whatever. But he never acknowledges that he's sitting like shoulder to shoulder with me. And so, again, not a big fan of his work. Really thought that this whole scene was really kind of bizarre. So I have heard for years how charitable John Cena is and how he's done the Make-A-Wish thing, and that's all great. You know what? It's nice for him to do that. But here's the thing. This is what pisses me off. Is because that day in Terre Haute, Indiana, a guy, WWE agent, came up to John Cena as we were sitting shoulder to shoulder. I almost said shitting shoulder to shoulder. That's pretty funny. Shitting shoulder to shoulder with John Cena. So we're sitting there. This agent comes up. He's got a stack of John Cena t-shirts. And he asked John Cena, he's like, "Hey, John, we need you to sign these." It was for some charity or something. And Cena starts bitching and moaning. And his exact quote is, I ain't gonna make no money giving my shit away for free. And that, again, is an exact quote from John Cena, the big charity guy who wants to, who wants to help everybody and travels around seeing all the sick kids. That is what John Cena's response was regarding giving away, 3 or 4 freaking t-shirts. So that really, really just pissed me off. And finally, John Cena got up and left, and it was about showtime, so I went and took my seat, and that was it. After the show, I'm standing there talking to my buddies, and there's a kid in a wheelchair and his dad's there. All of a sudden, I turn around and Eddie Guerrero, who's champ at the time, has his belt over his shoulder. He's got a handful of t-shirts. He's down on his knees talking to this kid, giving him all these shirts, signing the shirts for him, talking with him, taking pictures of him. And that to me is what a real performer does. I mean, I loved Eddie Guerrero. I always have loved Eddie Guerrero. I've met him many times. He was always gracious and amazing guy, very cordial to fans. And that right there, when I think of Eddie Guerrero, I think of that moment when he was down on his knees talking to that boy in the wheelchair. And it just brought a tear to my eye because you could tell that he was making that child so happy.
Check out this photo that I took of Eddie Guerrero exactly 1 week before his untimely passing. Look at the defiance in that photo. Look at the attitude. You could tell that Eddie was really playing the heel role to the absolute hilt. He's even got the middle finger out. Eddie rarely gave obscene gestures like that when the cameras were rolling, so I know that I really captured a rare house show kind of moment in this photograph. And after the match, Eddie got on the mic and he told the crowd that he should have been dead 1,000 times and that it was an absolute miracle that he was alive and there on that particular day to perform in front of that crowd. And I've never heard of Eddie. I've watched a lot of videos and read a lot of reports of house show results. I never heard of him doing anything similar. And then ironically and coincidentally and tragically, he would be dead exactly 1 week later. And I know there's no video footage of that little Eddie on the mic that night. I wish there was because I would like to hear it again. But at the same time, I'll always remember it. It'll always be a part of me because it was touching and emotional and powerful at that moment. And it became even more so 1 week later when he tragically died. And I've loved this photo so much, I actually put it on the cover of my very first fiction book, which is also an award-winning fiction book entitled Dead Wrestlers, Broken Necks, and the Women Who Screwed Me Over. You could look it up on Amazon if you so desire. And here's a little addendum for you guys regarding that incident in Terre Haute when Eddie came out. I'm talking to my buddies who were with the WWE at the time, and Eddie came out and talked to that boy in the wheelchair. At no time did I hear Eddie Guerrero bitch and complain about giving his shit away for free and how he wasn't going to make any money off the shirts he gave that boy. You could tell by the humble look on Eddie's face that he was touched to be there to make that little boy happy, to put a smile on his face and bring some joy into his life. And you know what? Guess what? John Cena was nowhere to be seen. John Cena didn't come out and talk to that little boy. It was Eddie Guerrero. That's kind of odd, isn't it? Considering that John Cena, likes to be there for the kids, But yeah, no John Cena on that particular night, just Eddie Guerrero. Okay guys, here's the deal. Having unwillingly sat shoulder to shoulder with John Cena for approximately 10 to 15 minutes as he sat there mumbling, grumbling, cussing, and farting. Yeah, he farted twice. I had to sit there and smell that shit. And not, just generally speaking, he was acting like a boorish, crude, angry gorilla man. I believe that I could speak for him in this instance because that moment we just bonded. We really did. So what I could tell you is this. I believe that John Cena would have been standing right behind Eddie Guerrero in line to hand that little boy in the wheelchair some t-shirts and by proxy not making any money off his shit in the process had there been cameras there rolling.
So when I hear talk about how wonderful John Cena is and I see him on all the TV shows and how charitable he is, blah, 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 freaking blah, I think of that night in Terre Haute, Indiana when he was bitching and moaning about signing and giving away a handful of t-shirts for free. To me, I hate hypocrites. I really hate hypocrites. And you can go on all the junkets to talk to people and to do charity work all you want, but and you're bitching about giving away a couple t-shirts because you ain't going to make no money. Let me tell you, people, John Cena is a big goddamn sham. And that right there proves it. Now flash forward to 2010. WWE, whenever they come into town, they were going to, whenever the guys would work out at the gym that I worked out in at the time. It's now defunct. It was an old Gold's Gym. So I'm in there. It was a Sunday afternoon. I believe it was February or March. It was really cold outside. And the WWE was in town doing the show at the Assembly Hall over in Urbana, Illinois, University of Illinois. And my alma mater, by the way. And so I'm at the gym, and it's like a 3 o'clock show. So I'm at the gym like probably around noon, 1 o'clock. And a couple of the guys came in. Now there's no one at the gym that day. It's empty, completely empty. And two of the wrestlers were in there. It was Cody Rhodes and John Cena. And me. And like maybe a couple other stragglers who had no clue who they were. So, I'm just, hanging around the gym, and at a certain point, I saw John Cena go into the locker room. I figured he was going to leave. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I figured, hey, I'll get him to sign something. I'll throw it on eBay. So I go into the locker room. There's no one in there, and he's done. By the time I get in there, he's like got his bag. He's about ready to head out. I go in there. I'm like, hey, Mr. Cena, man, can you sign something for me? I actually complimented him, and that's the only thing I could compliment Cena on, was I actually told him I liked the promo that he had done the week before on Raw, which I think was about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out or something. And he was just the complete biggest asshole. Like, he just snapped at me. Well, I'm getting ready to go, and you want it done, you better do it right now. So I'm like, okay. And I'm talking nice, Mr. Cena, sir, blah, blah, blah. And I hand him the thing to sign, and he signs it. And he hands it back to me, and he flings the pen, and it hits the thing, and he gets in my face. He's like, well, thank you very much. And he just storms out. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. The child hero, the big, WWE's big answer to Hulk Hogan, the new Hulk Hogan, the Superman, the public relations guy that they love to put on all the shows, was just a complete and utter asshole. I mean, I could see if there's like 100 people in there, and I wouldn't have bothered a guy if there was 100 people in there. There was no one in there. So a few minutes later, I just bumped my John Cena head. Thanks for that autograph, John. And so a few minutes later, Cody Rhodes is getting ready to leave. And I almost didn't even approach him, but he was just sitting there on a bench in the gym by the locker room, and he had his bag there. I don't know what he was doing. I think he was just wrestling, to be honest. And I went over to him and asked him if he could sign something. He was like the nicest guy in the world, like the complete antithesis of what John Cena just was. And he was like cordial, asking me questions. He asked me if I was going to the show. I told him no, I couldn't. And he's like, yeah, man, weird show, weird time for the show today, blah, blah, blah. And it's cold out. And he didn't, made a comment about how he didn't know how attendance would be, blah, blah, blah. Very nice incident with Cody Rhodes. Again, as I said at the beginning, I wasn't a big Cody Rhodes fan. After that point, after that meeting, I kind of liked his work. It's because that type of interaction will make you a fan of somebody's. So next year, WWE comes through again. Now this time, the owner of the Gold's Gym, the now defunct Gold's Gym, it was during spring break the following year. He had somehow got a call from the WWE that all their guys are going to come in. So he called all his friends. So there was like maybe 30 people in the lobby of Gold's Gym. 30 kids, parents, girls. And John Cena was in there, and everyone was in there that day. The entire freaking roster was there. And, I met Santino and Vladimir Kozlov in the parking lot. Great guys. Very, very, very cool guys, So we're there, and John Cena's walking around doing this thing. And there's, a group of people at the lobby, and they're waiting for him. And everyone's coming up to me because I had told everyone at the gym the story about John Cena. Everyone's coming up to me, hey, man, hey, there's your buddy. Why don't you go talk to him? Why don't you go get his autograph again? I'm not talking to that asshole. So the whole time he's at the gym, he's got this really pissed off look, much like the look he had in Terre Haute, much like the look he had, the year earlier in the Gold's Gym locker room. And he's running around doing his thing. Me and my buddy were standing there, and he came out of the locker room. I'm like, let's see how he responds to the kids in the lobby. Because I told him, I've heard that John Cena is, from others, that he's a total asshole unless you're a busty girl or a little kid. So he's coming out of the locker room. He's got this pissed off look on his face. As soon as he rounds the corner to go around to the lobby, bam! Like he turned into the John Cena you see on TV. Goofy grin, forced grin, goofy attitude, and he just turned into that character. And I said, look at that. Look at that. I mean, we both saw. It was just like an instant transformation. So, and he signed their autographs, and he took pictures with them, and, he went on his way, and everyone left happy. But, you know, those two incidents where I met John Cena, where he's a complete asshole, griping about signing the shirts and then, you know, getting in my face about signing the picture, you know, it's just really, what I can say is this. I hate people who pretend to be one thing. I hate fake people. Ripper the Clown hates fake people. And from my experience with John Cena, you know, he's not the, you know, publicly he may be that charitable guy, but what I saw on both occasions, he's a complete freaking asshole. And my two random encounters with John Cena, for me to encounter him twice, you know, 6 years apart, and he's a complete asshole, I think it pretty much exemplifies who the man is. So you want to know why I hate John Cena? You know, his ring work aside, which is atrocious and it sucks, and he's ruined the sport of professional wrestling. All that aside, I hate John Cena because he's an asshole. I'm Ripper the Clown, and check out my other pop culture comedy videos and pro wrestling videos on my YouTube channel, Ripper the Clown Show. And I say goodbye, and hey, good old John Cena too. Look at that. You can't see me. See you later, John. See you later, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this answers all your John Cena Ripper the Clown feud questions.